Hello everybody, welcome to Natty's Home Cooking, and today we are going to be making stuffing ham balls smothered in turkey gravy. So let's go ahead and get started in the kitchen. Okay guys, so first we're going to make our own bread so that we can make the stuffing. I like to make my stuffing mix. You can buy the stuffing mix at the store. It comes in a bag and you can just use that, and if you'd rather do it that way. But me personally, I'm just going to make my homemade ciabatta bread. I do have the recipe for this ciabatta bread on my channel. You can follow that video as well. So I'm just going to kind of go through this really quick and just share it with you as we go through the steps. Okay, so me, I do not use a metal bowl. I only use either a ceramic bowl, glass bowl, or even a plastic bowl when I'm making my breads, any type of bread, just because we don't want to destroy the yeast. We want to preserve the yeast as much as possible. That's including not putting hot water on it, not using a metal spoon or a metal bowl when you're doing your bread here. So do keep that in mind when you're making bread. Okay, so right now I'm just adding the yeast, and I'm going to into a well of flour. That's how I do my mixing. And then I'm going to add in the warm water, not hot water, just warm water. And when you mix this, mix it a little bit to, first off, before we mix it, let it sit into this warm water, okay? Let it just ferment, and for the yeast to build up here a little bit, you'll see it start to bubble. And as we let it sit, we'll mix it up just a bit, and then we'll add in our sea salt. On this, we don't use sea salt while we're mixing in the yeast, because the salt destroys the yeast as well, so it will mess it up. So I don't ever add salt right away into my yeast mixture. I do that the last. So after it gets done here in a little bit, I'm going to go ahead and mix it, and then I'll add in my salt. Okay, so now that I gave it a good mix, I'm going to add in my salt, and I'm going to add a little bit more warm water because it's still too dry. So we're going to kind of use that water to kind of dissolve some of that salt in with the dough here. Mix it up really good. And if it's still too shaggy, add a little bit more water. We are going to be doing a lot of stretch and fold on this. We're going to do 3 sets of stretch and fold for our ciabatta bread. Now, when you're the first rise, you want it to rise. I always let it sit for about an hour and a half to 2 hours altogether, and then I'll come and by the way, when you're letting it sit, have it in like a humid, warm area. Me personally, I usually I put it in my garage with it covered up, and I'll let it sit out there for a little bit because that's so humid out there, because that's where I do my laundry as well. So the humidity is pretty high. On cold days, if it's, like today, it's kind of cold. So I'll put it on top of the stove where I did some cooking earlier, and it's still kind of warm up at the top, not hot, but just warm, to where I can actually put my hands on top of the stove and it's not going to burn me. Well, I just set my bowl up on it, and it'll keep it nice and warm, and it'll start to rise a little bit better. You're not going to need this bread very much. You're just going to kind of just work it in the moisture, the water, the salt, and all that. And that's all that we're really going to do. We're not going to mess with it too much. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and cover this up with a towel and put it on the stove. All right, so we're going to add 2 cups of flour. Okay, and then we're also going to be adding 2 cups of cornmeal. Now this, you can either do the cornbread without sugar or you can add sugar to it. I do my sweet cornbread so with my stuffing because it gives it a really good flavor. My family they love it. They love the cornbread when I add a little bit of the sugar to it. So because this is a double batch, I am doubling everything. So the sugar is usually 2/3 cups of sugar, but I'm doing 2. So this is a double batch. Okay, we're just going to mix this up just a little bit before we add the rest of the ingredients. So I like to kind of just break it all down and bring it together so it'll be easier to mix. Okay, we're going to use 2 tablespoons of baking powder. Then we're going to just mix this up really well. Just mix it in with the flour mixture here. Add 2 cups of whole milk. Then we're going to add 4 eggs. I'm using my free-range eggs because they're more rich. I love the free-range eggs. They're just so much more better. They are of a darker yellow than the regular store-bought, as you can see. They're more golden. Okay, and then once we get these added, we'll mix it up really well with the blender. See the colors? Aren't those beautiful? If you use a store-bought egg, you can tell the difference because they're more lighter, like a lighter color. Okay, so we're gonna blend or beat up our eggs here, mix them up really well before adding it to the mixture here. I just wanted to kind of show you how, you need to have those eggs mixed up very well. We need to also add in 1 teaspoon of salt to the mixture, which I almost forgot to do. And I'm using just sea salt to the mixture. And then we're going to also add in two sticks of melted butter to the mixture as well. All right, I'm going to blend up my mixture just a little bit before I start adding in those eggs. And because I kind of wanted to get it mixed up somewhat a little bit here. Now I'm just going to add in those eggs and then keep on blending. And make sure it's blended up really well. Like you've got everything mixed in together. You don't want no clumps or anything like that. Alright guys, I'm going to use the spray flour thing that I found at Walmart so that the cornbread does not stick to it. The stuff is so amazing. I love it. So as soon as I sprayed that, I just poured the mixture into the pan, and then we're going to cook it in the oven at 375 for at least until the when you stick a stick or a knife in there, it doesn't stick. There's nothing that comes out wet. So that's when you know your cornbread is done. I would give it at least 30 minutes to 35 minutes, somewhere around there, maybe less, but just keep checking on it until it's done because you don't want it to be still wet in the middle. All right, guys, remember this is the bread that we made. I actually made this yesterday, but with you guys, but now is today. So anyway, this is a day-old bread. What we're going to do is we're going to make our own stuffing mix that you would get in a bag so you can make your stuffing. So what we're going to do is we're going to dice this bread up into cubes, and then we're going to bake it in the oven on 375 for about, I would give it about 15 to 20 minutes until it starts getting really crispy. You'll notice it, but don't forget about it because it will burn. You don't want burnt bread. And then there goes all that bread that you just wasted. So definitely keep an eye on your bread. Anyway, we're going to cut these up into cubes and then place them in a bowl, and then we'll put them on a pan. Okay. But it looks, oh my gosh, this bread smells so good. It smelled amazing. And had forgotten that I hadn't ate all day today, and I was feeling a little dizzy at the time, and I was like, why am I feeling so dizzy? I didn't understand, but then because I've been so busy, I just forgot about eating. But yeah, I was really hungry at this time, and um, I was getting dizzy because of it. So anyway, the bread came out beautiful. It's such beautiful. It looks like sandwich bread. It looks so amazing. Usually my ciabatta bread has a lot of holes in it, but this one, I think maybe it's just because I didn't do a lot of stretch and folds like I should have, or it wasn't as wet at the very, very beginning whenever I started it. Okay, so now that we got it all chopped up, we can go ahead and now place it on a pan. Make sure your oven's at 375 and let it, like I said, let it cook until it gets nice and crispy, not burnt, not too hard, but just enough to where you can feel that crispiness and stuff. And then make sure they're spread out on the pan really good. You don't need to add any kind of oil or anything like that. We're not adding seasoning to these. We're just drying it out a little bit more. Okay. That's all that we're going to do at this point. Okay, now we're going to start on our cornbread. We're just going to kind of crumble it up and put it into this bowl. I'm not going to do the whole bag of cornbread that I made, just a little bit, because my husband loves cornbread, so he wants to have some for, later. So I'm just going to use a little bit of this cornbread. Probably, I would say, maybe 4 cups of cornbread or less, maybe 4 cups altogether that I used here. So, all right. And then once we get the bread done, we're going to add the bread into this bowl as well. All right, now we're going to start melting butter into the pan so we can add our celery and our onions. Okay, so we're just going to let this melt. We'll probably be adding 1.5 sticks of butter altogether. So we're just going to chop up all this celery and put it into a bowl with the onions, and then we'll place it into the pan. Okay, so I'm only going to do 1 onion. This onion was very ripe, by the way. It really burned my eyes, which usually onions, sometimes I don't have a problem with them, but this one was pretty strong. But this is all that we're going to do, is just that 1 onion and put it in with the celery. Okay, my butter is ready, and I can go ahead and add in my celery and my onions. And I'm going to probably end up excuse me, doing a little bit more butter, because butter is something that you definitely need in stuffing to give it that flavor. So I will be adding another butter to this. I'll probably add another stick butter, just 1 stick of butter, because I think I only did a half, so it's just going to be 1.5 sticks of butter. Okay, I'm only going to cook the celery and the onions just until they're tender, because we don't want them crunchy into the stuffing. So once they get tender enough, go ahead and place it into the bowl. Okay, we're also going to be making mashed potatoes, so don't forget about those. We're going to just cook them until they are soft enough to where we can blend them, and then we'll do the steps for this too. All right, so our bread is done. It's nice and crispy. We're just going to go ahead and add them into, and see how they're not burnt. They're just nice and crispy. That's all that we want them to be. So we're just going to blend. We're just going to put it into the mixture with the cornbread, and then once the celery and onions are done, we're going to put that in there with it as well. Okay, so now we're going to start with the cream mixture, which is the cream of mushroom, or you can use cream of chicken. I'm just using 1 can of cream of mushroom, and then I'm going to add in some milk, and I'm going to mix it a little at a time, which is my evaporated milk. I'm using evaporated milk. I'm not using whole milk. So it's going to be 1 can of cream of mushroom, 1 can of evaporated milk. And like I said, you do not have to use the cream of mushroom. You can use cream of chicken. So just mix this up really well. And then once this is all mixed up and you got all the clumps out of it, and you can go ahead and start on your ham or your turkey. So I'm cutting up the ham right now because this is from the Thanksgiving that I have kept frozen, and I'm just mixing it up in here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this mixture and I'm going to mix it in with the celery and the onion and get that all mixed in together. So once this is all, I just made a mess, a big mess. I hate messy counter. I hate a messy stove, and right now it's really bothering me. So anyway, once that's all in there, the angle that I had it was just not good for that bowl where I had it. But anyway, once that's all in there, we're just going to let it cook and we're going to stir it up. And then once we stir it, we're just going to let it simmer in here on the stove while we prep our other stuff. So it looks really good. And by the way, this mixture is really, really good. It's even good just like this. It's got such a great flavor from that ham and those celery and the onions. Oh my, it is so good. Okay, so now we're going to do our seasoning. This is a sea salt. And remember, I'm doing a double batch, so it's going to be a little bit more. Now, if you're doing a single batch, it's just going to be less for you. Now I'm adding in some garlic powder. And then I'm going to add in some onion powder right now and Italian seasoning. Okay, and then I'm also going to do some poultry seasoning and some black pepper. And then I'm going to add in some celery seeds. With that mixture, go ahead and dump it on top of your breads so that you can start mixing it all together. Okay, so now that you got all that mixed up really well, add in your seasonings, and then this is where we're going to actually start using our hands here in a little bit. So, but right now go ahead and mix this all up as much as you can with your spoon. And then when we go to add the eggs and the rest of the milk, that's when you will have to start using your hands because it starts to get really, you want it to be mixed up really well and kind of squish it together so that you can be able to form those balls. Because we don't really want a whole bunch of chunks in here. That's why we need to make it add a little bit more moisture to it. I'm going to taste it before I add the egg because I need to make sure that my seasonings taste okay before I add the egg, because then once I add the egg, I can't taste it. So this is why I like to taste my stuff before I add in egg. And it tastes really good. It's got the flavors all there. It's all really good. Okay, we're going to do 2 eggs, and then we're going to place in some milk, about a half a probably about a cup and a half, and we're going to mix this up really well. And I'm also going to add in some nutritional yeast to this really quick because I just want a little bit more flavor. So I did about a 1/4 cup, and I'm going to mix this up really, really well. Once this is mixed up, you're going to add it into the mixture here. So just place it all in there. And then you're going to just mix it up really well with your hands. You're going to just kind of squish it all down to where there's not thick chunks of bread and cornbread in there. So now what we're going to do is spray our pan with some vegetable oil spray. And then we're going to just place our balls onto the pan here. And then what we're going to do, have your oven on at 375 to heat up so that you can cook these. It took about 45 minutes for the stuffing balls to get completely finished. All right, guys, so we're gonna do our mashed potatoes. We're gonna just add some butter, evaporated milk, a little bit of evaporated milk at a time because you want your mashed potatoes to be thick. Add salt and pepper for flavor, and don't forget to taste before you serve it on your plate. Now, the key ingredient to this is your garlic powder. Make sure you add that into it and mix it up very well, so where they're nice and fluffy. You don't want them soupy. Next, we will begin to make our turkey gravy, and I'm using a pouch turkey gravy, one that I've had for Thanksgiving that I didn't use because I don't usually use them. So I'm going to have to doctor it up with some black pepper and some poultry seasoning, and just let it boil until it thickens up really well. And then that's what you're going to be serving on top of your mashed potatoes and your stuffing balls. Okay, so we're going to take a cup of mashed potatoes. We're going to place it just like that. We're going to take our stuffing ball. We're going to place it right in the center of the mashed potatoes. Now we're going to add that gravy right on top of it, drizzle it right on there. And you can add some green beans to the side of this, whatever you like for a vegetable. But this is it, guys. You're all finished. It looks beautiful. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. You all have a wonderful night, and God bless.